Today, I'm going to show you how to write your own final expense telesales script. I've been writing scripts for final expense for the last 5 years now. I've come to find one of my own that I like very much. However, I'm going to show you guys how you can create your own to match your own sales style, your own selling style, how to take bits and pieces of things you've learned along the way in your sales process, how to implement those into your script. And also maybe if you're brand new and you have copies of other people's scripts, but you want to write your own, I'm going to show you how to do that too. My name is Justin Von Meigen, and I have been selling final expense and training agents how to sell final expense for the last 5 or 6 years now. So I know a few things about it. The first part of your script is the introduction or the greeting. The purpose of the greeting is to get on common ground with the customer and push through any resistance that the customer might be displaying towards you. You got to understand that most of the time when you call people, they're not going to want to talk to you. Even if it's a brand new lead, you want to assume that you're going to encounter some resistance because we're in sales and people inherently don't trust people that are calling to sell them things. So there's a lot of sales resistance you have to diffuse in the greeting. I like to structure it so that it's very simple. It's very to the point. It's intended to not really get anybody in a defensive position about buying anything. You don't want to tell people like, oh, are you looking to buy insurance today? Do you want to buy life insurance today? Or do you want a final expense policy? Nothing like that. I like to approach it more from the perspective that I'm just calling to give someone some information. So the first part of your script has to be your greeting. Now, if you'd like a copy of my sales script to structure it after and model it after, then you totally can. My greeting sounds something like this. Say I was calling a client named Betty. Say, hey, Betty? Yes. Hey, Betty, it's Justin. How you doing today? Okay. Awesome. Sounds like you're having a great Monday. Well, Betty, the reason for my call is that a little while back, or just recently, you requested some information on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, wherever the lead came from, about the state-approved final expense burial programs, or you need to make sure your greeting matches the marketing. You want to structure your pitch to match whatever marketing campaigns are going on. So if you're running Facebook ads, say, I'm reaching out because just a little while back, or actually earlier today, you requested some information on Facebook, or you could say someone with this number requested some information on Facebook with regards to the state-approved final expense burial programs. And you mentioned that you live in Katy, Texas, or you mentioned that was something about the lead form. You want to repeat something back to them about the lead form. They may be like, oh yeah, obviously the newer the lead is, the better chance that they're going to remember it and be open to talk to you about it. But usually what's going to happen is they're going to put up some resistance either way, because it's time to put their money where their mouth is. Online shoppers typically don't want to deal with people as much as like someone going into a store would want to deal with someone. So I always looked at it from the perspective of, hey, I'm going to call this person. I'm going to assume I'm going to run into some resistance. I'm going to see if I can help them or I can make a friend. Your tone is very, very important in your greeting. You have to make sure that you're energetic, enthusiastic, and excited to talk to the client. You don't have to sound like you're on drugs, but you definitely want to sound happy to talk to them and happy about what you're doing for work. So structure your greeting so that there's an introduction. You're introducing yourself to your prospect. I wouldn't use first and last name for you. No one cares about your last name. Just your first name. They're probably not going to remember it anyway. For them, I would just use their first name too. I found that worked better. Keeping it pretty informal, like, hey John, it's Justin. How you doing today? And you don't even have to articulate the word perfectly. Like I'd say, how you doing? Instead of how are you doing today, right? I found saying Mr. or Mrs. for a guy generates resistance in the beginning. A girl can say it to kind of sound cute, like, hey, Mr. John. But like, I wouldn't say that. You could structure it based on something like that too. But the purpose of your greeting is to let the person know why you're reaching out, get on common ground with them really quick. And I found that anything you can use for humor helps a lot too. The most common things you're going to run into are, I have insurance. I'm not interested. I already took care of it. I just want to quote, I'm busy, or I don't remember doing it. I never did that. By the way, if you find value in this, please subscribe to the channel and turn on post notifications. That way you can be alerted to more videos that come out to help you guys. So you're going to want to create rebuttals to handle any of those objections that come up. I found the best way to handle those objections in the greeting is to just like acknowledge it and move past. So if someone's like, oh, I already have insurance, I put it in my script, those responses, and all I'd say is, hey, no worries. Look, most people I speak with have insurance. They find this pretty valuable. I'm not asking you to make any changes. And then I'll pick back up right in the next part of the script, which is called the fact finding. So in the fact finding part of the script, this is where you start to get into asking them questions to learn about them, but also kind of asking them questions to try to get them to like you a little bit. I like to structure questions around getting to know the client, to make a friend, and then also learning what their situation is, how can I help them, will they qualify for, stuff like that. So you want to structure the fact finding to ask some questions, and I'm going to go over some things you might want to ask questions about. I like to ask questions about who their beneficiary is. So, hey, if anything was to happen to you, who'd be the person kind of picking up the pieces and handling your final affairs? You can ask in a different way, that's fine. But you want to have a question in your fact finding that asks who the beneficiary will be, because that's the reason why they're on the phone with you there today. You also want to ask questions about them being able to make a decision on their own. Are they able to make a decision on their own, or do they have to maybe consult their beneficiary or someone else before they can pay for things or get insurance or something like that? Because you're going to run into some one-leggers. A one-legger is someone who can't stand on their own 2 feet. You want to try to weed that out in the beginning so that you're not stuck on a presentation with someone who doesn't have access to their bank account or can't make decisions on their own or something like that. So I always like to weed that out in the beginning. And I'll ask a question, like I'll be pretty straightforward, like, hey, are you able to make financial and insurance decisions on your own? Or does someone else have to help you with this? Or do you need to consult someone about this before you could do it? And I'd ask them too, oh, when you got your health insurance, did you get it on your own or did someone help you in your family? When you get your car insurance, did someone else get that for you or did you get it? If they already have life insurance, later on you can ask, hey, did you get that on your own or did someone else help you get it? Some questions may help you understand if this person can make decisions on their own. They're going to still bring that up in the close. A lot of times they're going to tell you they can't do it on their own as a stall. It's usually not that they can't make it on their own. They just don't trust their decision yet enough, and they don't trust you enough, and they don't see you as an authority figure, enough of an authority figure to take what you're saying as advice for them to apply it. If they tell you they can make their own decisions in this part, in the fact finding, and then in the close, they bring that up and say they can't make decisions, I always looked at it as like, okay, well, if they go to the doctor and the doctor was like, hey, we're going to give you this prescription, they're probably not going to be like, well, let me go talk to my kids or my wife or something like that. They're probably just going to take the prescription, go fill it, right? And then they'll be like, go home, be like, yo, I got these pills. Now, if someone brings it up later, just know that that's just something you're going to have to overcome. And they either don't trust you enough or they don't trust themselves enough to make a decision on it. So ask about being the decision maker and if they can make their own financial decisions. This is kind of a touchy subject. Some people believe in this next thing, some people don't. I personally like to try to financially qualify people a little bit. You kind of got to be smooth with how you say it, but I like to figure out what someone's finances look like and their financial situation looks like, because you're going to get some final expense clients who are trying to spend like $5 or $10 a month on life insurance, and that's literally all they can afford. And I'm not trying to spend an hour on the phone with someone who can only afford that. I always like to ask, this is like a relationship building question, but it also helps me learn about something for the sale. Say, oh, what do you do for work? And if they're like retired, they're like, oh, that's awesome, I hope I can retire someday. If they're under 65, you want to try to figure out what their income, either way, try to figure out what their income is. So if they're over 65, you can assume that they're on Social Security. If they're under 65, it'd say, oh, wow, you're retired. Awesome. You get to retire early. You must have made a bunch of money. Sounds like you've been pretty successful in your life. How are things for you now? And they may say it. Or if they're like, oh, I'm unemployed, I don't work, and they're under 65, then they're probably not collecting anything unless it's disability, which is usually really low. So I'll follow up with a question like, without asking them directly what they make, just curious, you don't work, and this is something that you'd have to pay for every month. How do you make ends meet? How do you pay your bills? And I think that's a totally valid question to ask someone, like, hey, how do you pay your bills if you don't work? Because sometimes they'll literally just be shopping to get numbers and can be a waste of your time. You don't have to put this in. I'm just talking about something I put in my script that I like as a fact-finding question. So we have beneficiary, decision maker, can do financial stuff, but you don't have to. Questions about what they have for existing coverage already. So you want to dig into if they have existing coverage, meaning, hey, do you have any existing life insurance or prepaid burial programs? If it's a yes, you want to get the name of the company and you want to do a policy review. So you want to build out a script for calling their insurance company on a 3-way phone call. Don't structure it like a question. Tell them, okay, we're going to call that company right now, get some information about your plan. It's really important to do a policy review at least once a year. I know all the fancy insurance questions I'm going to ask them. At the end of this call, I want you to grade your policy A, B, C, D, or F, okay? Awesome. If they don't have any insurance, you can ask them like, hey, what's your plan look like to take care of this? What were you going to do? What were your kids going to do? What was, your spouse going to do? Try to dig in and ask some questions to bring out the emotions behind why they want it. This can be harder for newer agents. If you find that you're losing people here, then don't worry about it. Try to figure it out later. But you really want to establish what they have for insurance and if they have anything in place. If they don't have anything in place, you can ask, hey, what's held you back from getting a policy in place? Were the prices really high, or did you not think you could qualify? So you can ask questions about that. Another thing you want to ask in your fact finding is what they are going to use the insurance for. So they're going to use it to cover a funeral, a cremation, or something else like a gift to a loved one. Try to figure out the need. Are they going to need to leave any money behind for their loved one when they pass for income replacement? Hey, yeah, I want my funeral covered, but then, I contribute $500 a month in bills to the family. So I want to make sure when I pass that money's not left behind. That can help you add to the death benefit later on down the road. And then in addition to that, you can dig a little into that. Hey, what would they like their funeral to be? If there's other family members they'd want to leave money behind for, really how much coverage they're looking to get. You can ask, how much coverage were you thinking that you would need? Keep in mind that there's inflation as well with funeral and cremation prices. So as you're asking them these questions, understand that, hey, in 20 years, it's probably going to cost like twice as much money. 25 years, it's going to cost twice as much money than what it costs now. Something like that. Play that into your questions if you'd like. I like to ask questions about things close to them as well, personally, like their family, their friends, what they do for fun, what it's like where they live, what they did for work. I like to ask those questions because I like to build a strong relationship with my clients. I found it helps keep policies on the books. You want to build the need to make them want the insurance, sure. But I found that if I get them to like me, they almost feel like they're betraying me by canceling a policy. Yes, they want they need it and they want to understand why they need it, but I also want them to like me so much that they're like, oh, I can't cancel on Justin. That's like one of my goals. And I always had good business persistency. It made it fun too. Like throw some questions in there. Oh, so what do you do for, like I said before, what do you do for work? Or, oh, you got any kids? You got any grandkids? What's it like to do where you live? And then keep it conversational. So as you're going through your script, remember, you want to keep it a conversation, not a script. Have fun. Make it entertaining for the prospect. Make it so that they want to talk to you, right? Like it doesn't have to be this like super formal process. They can definitely just want to talk to you about their day. And like, that's totally cool. You might get some chatty Cathys that will want to talk to you forever. And at that point, you just got to rein it back into the script some way or another. I'll just talk over them until they shut up and they'll just start listening. So sometimes that's all you can do. It's not the best way to do it, but if I can't get them back on the script any other way, I'll just start talking until they stop and then they'll just listen. So in addition to that, in the fact finding, you want to do something like a health evaluation. Around this time, I would put somewhere where you're going to send your client your personal information. I always texted them from my phone with a selfie. So I'd selfie with a peace sign. Yo, what up? I would send them a picture. Hey, this is my cell phone. And that helps build credibility. Well, if you text someone while you're on the phone with them in a sale, it's proven that it increases your conversion rate. People have done studies on it and it'll help you increase your conversion rates. I don't know why. Maybe they trust you more, and trust is a big thing for final expense. And also too, I liked all my prospects to have my personal cell in a way to save my number and my name. That way, if we got disconnected, they could call back. But even now, I have people call me from years ago. I had a woman call me yesterday from years ago who got a policy. So it's always good to have that means of that mode of communication, that communication line with them. Give them some information about yourself. You also, in the fact finding, want to ask questions about their health. Now you can ask them just questions on an application. If you sell multiple carriers, I definitely would ask something basic at first to help you figure out what carrier you're going to go to. So you don't have to bore them with like these ridiculously long health questions that applications have. The clients don't like that. So hey, do you have any heart, liver, kidney, or lung issues? Do you have a history of any cancer, heart attack, stroke, COPD, or diabetes? Do you use tobacco? How tall are you? How much do you weigh? Any other health complications they can think of? Are they on any medications? Why did they take those medications? That's more important. That's like, will give you 90% of the information that you need to figure out what carrier they're going to qualify for. If you only sell one carrier, yeah, just read them the questions on the application. But if you sell multiple carriers, I would ask those general questions first. That'll give you an idea of which company to look at. I'm not going to cover underwriting here, but underwriting is where you figure out what company your prospect's going to qualify for. Ideally, you want to get them an immediate benefit plan. If not, you're going to want to get them the best priced return of premium plan that has Social Security billing. But ask those questions. It'll give you a general idea once you know how to underwrite. And then you can ask the specific questions on the carrier's application if you think that's the company that you're going to go with for them. So remember, we have the introduction, overcoming rebuttals, and then fact finding that has a bunch of stuff. So if you need to rewind, that's totally cool. You can go back through that. If you'd like a copy of my script so you can see the structure, just email me, jve@thejve.com. If you'd like to work with me, you can email me. We provide all of our agents unlimited final expense leads at no out-of-pocket cost. and you can just work from home. We give you a CRM, plug the leads in, and you're ready to go. So subscribe to the channel as well. Turn on post notifications. It really helps me. Next, after we figure out what someone qualifies for, maybe we dig a little deeper into why they need it, ask them some questions about the emotions behind it. You really want to keep your final expense presentation 25 to 30 minutes before the quote. Anything more than that, I found it lowers conversion rates. It's going to ultimately hurt your production because it doesn't take an hour to close somebody. So for final expense, it shouldn't. So if you're taking like an hour or more on your sales presentation, one, you're going to waste time with a lot of duds. Two, once you get your skill set up, you can close those people faster, and then that'll help you get more presentations in, right? So like you don't want to waste an hour before quoting someone who is never going to buy in the first place. Then you run into that. And also they can get call fatigue because our clients are old. So they may get like tired and be like, oh, I'm so sick of this. I don't even want to deal with it right now. So 25 to 30 minutes I found is the sweet spot for quoting. So you want to structure your script so that you get to the quotes within that time. After we figure out what they qualify for, we're going to present the features of the plan. They're all whole life policies, so it's really easy. Final expense scripts are super easy because all the products have pretty much the same features and benefits. Some have special funeral protection services, some are immediate benefit, some pay out, the terminal illness benefit may pay out in different volumes, different amounts, different percentages from company to company, but in general, they're all whole life policies. The premiums are the same. They got cash value. Usually the company throws some extra goodies like prescription discount cards or, funeral planning guides, stuff like that. So the presentations the features are very similar through all the products. If it's a return of premium plan, I would never call it a 2-year wait. That's like suicide. Not the best way to say it. I would say, hey, look, now in the first 24 months, some agents don't even talk about it at all. If you pass on an accident, it's going to pay out in full. If you pass of natural causes, it's going to pay your beneficiaries back everything you've paid in plus 10% interest tax free, which you're not going to get in any savings account anywhere. I mean, you sound, based on everything you told me here, you sound like you're going to be around for a little while longer. So if anything happen in the next couple of years, it'd probably just be an accident, right? And because like people usually don't like admit they're going to die sooner. If someone's like, no, I'm going to die soon, and be like, well, hey, you've got a forced savings account here, you're going to get some money off it. But usually people will be like, yeah, I'm going to live a long time. So yeah, exactly. So if anything happened to you in the next 2 years, most likely it's going to be an accident, and that's going to pay out anyway. So you can kind of pitch it like that. If they get an immediate benefit plan and they have some health complications, you really want to push on that because they probably struggled to find an immediate benefit plan before with some other companies that advertise on TV and online and stuff where they weren't able to get a day one benefit with someone. So if you're able to get someone a day one benefit and they have stuff like COPD or diabetic neuropathy, or they've had, a heart attack within the last 2 years and you can still get them a day one or something like that, then that's something you really, really want to push on. What I would do is have a list of the features and benefits of the plans so that you can touch on them. And you can write it out on your script so you say word for word what it is. Over time, what I've found is more advanced salespeople, they'll learn the feature and then they'll tie it into the why. So if the person was like, I want this to cover my funeral because I don't want my kids to have to deal with this and deal with the emotional burden of this on top of everything else, be like, hey, look, this is going to kick in from the day you make your first payment. So from the day you make your first payment, your funeral is going to be totally covered for your kids. They're never going to have to worry about this. No added pain, grief, suffering on top of losing you. They're not going to get any financial stress. You're taking a big step here. Like, this is an awesome plan because from the day you make your payment, this plan is going to take care of all that for you. As you get more experience, you'll be able to do that. But understand there's a feature, there's an advantage and a benefit. A feature is what it is. So it's a terminal illness benefit. A benefit is what it does for the client, right? It gives them money ahead of time to take care of things before they pass, or experimental treatments or whatever they would need the money for. Help take care of someone who's taking care of them. And the advantage is what separates it from the competition. So, hey, there's a bunch of companies you see on TV that don't have that feature. You want to basically go over the basic features of the plan. I'd have something about it being a whole life, no medical exam, premiums never change, company can never cancel the policy as long as you pay your premium, got cash value, day one benefit, terminal illness. I don't know if I said that. Then we go into the quoting. I like to do a little trial close. So I'd say, hey, now Betty, based on everything that we went over and all these extra benefits that you qualify for here, would it make sense for you to see if you can qualify for a plan if we find something that works for you financially, or if we find something that you can manage financially every month? I like to do that to just get a feel of how the client's feeling about the product before the close. It may help me ask some questions too that I can touch up on to seal the deal a little bit more before I go into the quotes. I strongly encourage you to figure out what they're going to use the insurance for before you go into quotes. When you're asking, hey, would this be for a funeral, cremation, or back to the fact finding? If they're like, I never thought about this before, you're going to have to spend some time to help them think about it to figure out what they're going to use it for. If they can't tell you why they want it and what it's going to be for, then it's much harder to sell. Anyways, we get into the quotes. I always recommend people to quote max coverage, quote super high. Our average premium per sale is like $1,200 AP, $100 a month. I think it's because we quote people really high. That's higher than what I see a lot of people doing on average. I encourage, hey, quote the max coverage and then a couple other smaller options. When you quote people in your script, you want to have it structured so that the client writes down benefit amounts and you want to confirm that they wrote them down, make them grab a pen and piece of paper. And then you want to have it so that they write down the coverage amounts, make sure that they confirm they wrote them down, and they say, hey, which of these best fits your needs? Okay, now out of those options, which of those best fits your needs? Then I would just shut up, not say anything. You may have to handle objections here, and I have a video that you can watch on how to handle every objection in final expense telesales. A lot of objection handling, we try to handle objections in the presentation, but can be inevitable sometimes to run into them. But I would quote, when you structure your quoting, have it so that they write down the benefit amounts and then they write down the premiums for the corresponding premiums to those benefit amounts, and then they ask which option is best for them. You can either pivot, they agree to one and you move into the application, or they disagree and then you have your rebuttals there built into your script. How do you handle certain objections, stuff like that. There's a website I'm going to put in the description of the video as well if you would like examples of how to handle objections. I think it's like $40 or $39 for lifetime access for a ton of different ways to overcome objections in final expense telesales. That's a whole nother video that I have on that stuff too. Basically, how you want to structure your script. So we'll run through it. There may be some pieces that I'm missing here, but this is the basic skeleton. So you want to have the introduction, introduce yourself, who you are, why you're calling, say something to kind of drum up their memory about it. Be ready to handle any resistance. I didn't do that. I already have insurance, not interested, whatever. Move into your fact finding. You ask questions about them to get to know them personally, and you ask questions why they're going to need the policy, who's the beneficiary, can they make decisions on their own, what are their health conditions, stuff like that. Then you get into giving them your credentials, and then health questions, heart, liver, kidney, lung issues, cancer, diabetes, heart attack, stroke, COPD, medications, height, weight, tobacco use, and why they take their medications. Once you figure out what they qualify for, you want to section it for your presentation, where you demonstrate the features and benefits of the product to increase value so that they feel like what they're spending their money on is worth it. And it makes it even more worth it if you're able to tie those features into the problem that they said they needed to solve. And then you quote, I give them 3 options, the highest max coverage, and then a couple smaller options. Ask which works best. If you need to move down on options, you can, and either move right into the application if they agree, or handle objections or adjust coverage amounts to see like what works best for them financially. That's basically the outline for writing a script for final expense telesales. I hope this video helped you. Subscribe to the channel as well. Turn on post notifications. It really helps me. If you'd like to work with me, you can email me. If you'd like a copy of my script so you can see the structure, just email me, jve@thejve.com.